McClever Thoughts podcast with Punchie, man. Hey everybody, how y'all doing? How everybody doing on this wonderful week? This Wednesday, but it's hump day. It seems like I've been missing for a little minute. Been taking care of some business, getting all my affairs in line, things of that nature. I hope everyone is in good spirits and doing wonderful and living life to its fullest. You know, um, Prayers goes out to those people in California. You see the things that they're dealing with and the trials and tribulations that they're facing. Someone say I was watching a YouTuber and they was talking about if you got family out there, they might have to come stay with you. And I'm just give a little of my opinion on how I see life going for a lot of people. Um, I see some rich people becoming poor. You know, I see a lot of people standing up for their rights, standing up for their beliefs. So you see a lot of this, protesting and looting and things of that nature going on. Um, Riots. So I see, and to go back to where I see a lot of people, rich people becoming poor. Um, Taxes, businesses, that wasn't properly, organized and wasn't thought through. Investments, bad investments, which would be considered bad investments. A lot of those things would, transpire in a lot of people's lives. So with the bad investments on top of the taxes that's being paid, have to be paid. A lot of people gonna lose a lot of their assets, you know. Um, and it's just we are in a phase where people are not paying attention to the what we would consider the pictures on the wall. Like a lot of people are not paying attention to life changing. A lot of people just feel like, okay, this is normal. Things will get back to how they used to be. Some people still thinking that life is gonna go back to how it used to be before COVID. And they still wishing and hoping it be that way. So it's a news flash. It's not going back to that way. We're going into a whole new, way of living. We're going into a whole new system um, of functioning in society. These things are being implemented, right before our face. And what I can tell you is you can't stop it all. You pretty much can't stop none of it. But how you do maintain your sanity is by focusing on the things that you can control. And like I'm always gonna tell you, stack up on your resources. Stack up on your canned goods, your water, your toilet paper, your alcohol. Get into learning about nature and how to plant. Learn about herbs and things of that nature because we see in a world where I don't know how it is in other countries, but I know how it is in America. It's everybody ain't gonna be able to afford to go to the doctor. Even people making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. We're talking about. I think society gonna go to a point where people are gonna be able to not gonna be able. People are gonna be able only gonna be able to live based on their income. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you make $40,000, that's how much your bills and your lifestyle gonna accumulate. If you make $100,000, nah, you're not gonna pay the same thing as that person who made $40,000 paid for insurance and food and living expenses. Um, I think we're gonna go into that phase. So which I think a lot of people gonna start trying to go live off the grid as well. For those reasons alone, like not being able to cope and deal with, the expenses of, you know, which would be considered modern day society. Most people are gonna struggle in this future that's being created, right before our eyes. I'm always encouraging the next generation to see, the market that's gonna be um, more of in demand and cater to that market. For example, we see that the world is going more into a technology, direction. So you would, want your kids to get more into, biochemistry, you know what I'm saying? Understanding fruits and, how to, genetically and, modify, food and stuff like that. Or computer engineering, understanding those things. Because those are the new fields that we're going into. Believe it or not, video gaming is has always been popular, but it's becoming more, of a career and more of a having more of a stance in life, So and I think that possibly leads to, the other things that we take interest in, like drones and remote control cars and even your little bitty thing that cleans up your floor for you. All that stems and has a relationship with video game programming. So you know everything stems and has a relationship with something. So you would teach your youth that's coming up, these are the things that at some point become more valuable. Even understanding and learning about digital money. It's not something that has literally taken over our, society today, but we see these things are taking place, and everybody ain't gonna want to live off the grid. Some people gonna want to live in those smart cities. You know what I'm saying? Some people gonna want to live in, those astro domes and communities and things of that nature. So you need to know how those cities and things of that nature gonna function, that time and that era gonna function. So I would say get the education now, so you are prepared when it goes into that new era, you know. But that's something that I want everybody to take into consideration of paying attention to. Pay attention to, how how society is shifting, not just society, the weather, the earth itself is shifting, pay attention to those things because those things are gonna, be a strong suit in your life. They're gonna dictate how your life is functioning and what direction you go in, so be more mindful of that. Moving right along, I was listening to, the Cam Newton podcast, I think Funky Friday, if I'm not mistaken. And he brought something to my attention, while listening to the podcast. He was talking about life before the cell phone. And I found that so interesting because I do think, listening to his podcast, I do think, it kind of shifts a lot of how we live today. Like I can see the changes, For example, we lived off of landlines at one point. We didn't, everybody had to use that one phone. And guess what? Even when you was on that phone, somebody else can pick up another line to that same old phone and be listening to your conversation. You know what I'm saying? So you you had to be very, very, very quick about getting your messages around, getting your messages out because your mama picked up that phone and said, "What you doing on this phone? Get your behind off this phone." You weren't gonna be able to set up those plans, and it was like, and that was another thing. Like we had to plan things before, but a day before. We had to literally plan things a day before. Like we had to say, we told it, hey, we gonna be here tomorrow around by 4. Now y'all come here tomorrow around by 4. But it also made me think we was more outside, than the youth are today. We was more entertaining, and we was more creative during those times because we didn't have all the other distractions. Like we didn't have the distractions of a cell phone. Like you gotta think about with your cell phone, which is a computer. So you watching YouTube, you watching Facebook, you watching all these different social media, social media outlets and platforms, till it becomes a distraction. As to where, when you didn't have that cell phone, you was more of, hey, I need to see what's going on outside. I need to see what's going on out there. So you was more interacting with outdoors. As to you got your cell phone, you can see what's going on outdoors. And I think that also, what I think with the cell phone, it also opened up doors for people to want to travel more. As to when you didn't have the cell phone, you was more comfortable being around your environment, your natural environment. So it made me think a lot about life before the cell phone. So I want y'all to comment down below, how was your life before the cell phone, if you can relate to that. And for the younger generation that never really got to experience the life before the cell phones, meaning they never got to see what a payphone was like. They never got to see what a beeper, a pager was like having. They never got to see what the what else? Even the computer AOL, that thing dialed up. It took about 30 minutes to come on. They never got to experience that. So that was life before the cell phone, though. You know what I'm saying? So y'all comment below, how was life before the cell phone for you? So that was very interesting to me. Outside of that, man, I hope everyone is having a wonderful day, a wonderful week. It's hot out there, man. they say that sun getting closer to the earth, so y'all keep, hydrated. Stay out the sun as much as possible. For the ones that gotta be in the sun, due to work or for whatever reason, please stay hydrated. Keep God with you. People are having headaches, people fainting. Take that sun seriously, man. Take that sun seriously. Outside of that, McClever Thoughts podcast with Punchie, man. Have a wonderful day.